and welcome to this edition of To Talk. Our program this month is on the amendment process to the county code and also the comprehensive land use plan. Those are processes that happen once a year. The first segment in this month's show will be with Rob Hosak, who's the agency head for community development. And he's going to be talking to all of us about the code amendment process. Rob has been with the county for 25 years and is currently the agency head and director of Cobb Community Development. He has a BS degree in planning and is a nationally certified planner. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the code amendment process with you. This is something that we do once, if not twice a year, and we've been doing that for probably the last 15 or 16 years.
Okay, so why don't you take folks through the process? It used to happen twice a year, and now in the interest of trying to bring it all together, I know we do it once a year. So why don't you walk folks through how we do that?
Sure thing. What we'll normally do, actually right about this time of year, in the fall, staff will begin speaking with the commissioners to see if there are any particular initiatives that the commissioners would like to pursue. Our process actually involves two separate types of amendments. We call some commission proposed. Those are major initiatives that have to have at least two commissioners sponsor the proposed change to the code. And then there are some staff-driven amendments, and usually those are the type that are needed to provide clarity to the code or to reflect a change at the federal or state law level that we need to comply with.
Now, one of the things about the commissioner-driven ones, it's not just that the commissioner comes up with the idea. A lot of times, citizens around the community have come and talked to the commissioner and asked the commissioner to consider that change.
Absolutely. We have a very, very active community association or civic association. Got a number of real good organizations all around the county. They will go to their particular district commissioner, discuss some concerns, make potential suggestions, and then, as you had stated, usually this time of year, we'll get direction from at least two commissioners to, hey, let's go ahead and pursue this type of amendment to the code. Let's try to accomplish this kind of objective.
So now once you've gotten these requests, and I know we always refer to as your change folder, what happens next?
Well, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll put together what we think is going to accomplish the individual commissioner or the two or three commissioners' objectives or what they want the amendment to do. We do need to coordinate with the county legal department and make sure that the language that we've used as professionals in our particular areas of expertise actually meets the legal tests that are required to make sure it's constitutional and it's written in the correct.
Now, one thing about these code amendments, they're not just to zoning, because it could be any one of the different code sections in the county code.
That's a very good point. Thank you, Commissioner. Actually, we normally kind of marshal up all kinds of amendments. The majority are usually zoning, but sometimes we'll have water and utility related code amendments, business license, alcohol service related amendments, changes to the animal control ordinance, and
well, then there's always some to the fire safety because the county follows the national fire safety standards.
Yes, and what I was going to say is sometimes we'll have changes to the building code as well, all of which are because of the fact that the county by reference adopts the International Building Code as well as the International Fire Safety Code.
Okay, so now once you start doing all your research and you craft the language, what happens next in the process?
What we normally do is we'll go ahead and set up a detailed process of dates by which we're going to follow through with the process. Each year we'll do 3 different public hearings. We do it at the beginning of the year, each year. This year, our first public hearing will be January 22nd, which is a night meeting. We will follow up with a public hearing that is specifically dedicated to transferring an official recommendation from the Planning Commission. We'll do that on February 10th this year. We'll do that during the morning meeting at 9 o'clock. And then finally on February 24th, we'll be doing the final public hearing, the third and final public hearing, and consider adoption of the amendments at that time.
Now, one of the things that happens during these public hearings is the folks in the community get to stand up and talk about the different amendments, make their suggestions and comments, and in between the different meetings, staff goes and takes a look at those requested changes or suggestions from the community and works those into the amendments.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And I think that's a very important point, Commissioner, because oftentimes staff will start with an amendment that looks like something that towards the end of the process, after we have received public input, and I think it's important to note that that's a good thing when the amendments change because it shows that the process is working. It comes out on the back end or the adopted end to reflect community concerns and incorporate additional language that the commissioners felt like, hey, that's a good point. Let's try to put that in, or let's try to add that to
right, so the community really does have an opportunity to participate in the process.
Yes, I would say one of the things that we're most proud of as your staff, Commissioner, is we've probably got an email distribution list that we transmit all of these proposed changes to upwards of 300 or 400 people. And it's the same list that we've been sending to folks for a number of years. We push it out on the website, but I think that the real proof of the process is working is if we forget to send out a notice or we're a little slow in making our announcement of when the dates are going to be, we'll get tweaked by somebody from the community saying, hey, when, we need to know when the process is.
Certain members of the community know exactly when it's going to happen. So now, other than the public hearings, how can someone, in the community get involved, or how do they find out what the code amendments are?
Well, we'll send stuff out via the email distribution list that I had mentioned, but we'll also make sure that we post it on our webpage. What we also try to do is, as customers walk into our office, we usually try to make sure that we put up some kind of public notification sign that gives somebody a heads up that, hey, we are considering some changes to the county code. We actually also have some professional organizations that we usually solicit input from, that we make sure we get that information out to them as well.
Now, if someone's not on your email list, you mentioned the website, so they can always go to the community development website.
That's correct.
And I'm making the assumption that we also send out on the Friday updates as part of the weekly information updates that we send out to the community, that we're going to have these public hearings and where folks can go to get this information.
Yes, sir. The other thing that we do, Commissioner, in addition to asking the district commissioners to include it in their monthly newsletters, we also are required by law to post advertisements in the Marietta Daily Journal. So a lot of times that would give folks, particularly in the legal arena that normally review legal ads, there'll be a very prominently displayed legal ad in the paper as well, and it's well in advance of when the public hearings are conducted.
Okay, so now if someone is unable to make the public hearings, they get onto the website, they get the information, they get the packet, because it normally comes in a packet and it references the code section and what's going to change. How can they relay their questions or concerns that they may have about a proposed change?
What they have done in the past is they've been very good, I think, to contact their district commissioner. They're usually always contacting us as well, particularly the folks that have been involved in the process for a couple of different years.
So anyone can, they can reach out to the district commissioner, of course, but they can also reach out to your folks in community development.
Absolutely.
And if it's a change that's not necessarily directed at community development, zoning, or land use, then your office can help direct them.
Yes, sir. And that's a good question, Commissioner, because, again, there may be several different proposals that aren't necessarily being driven by the community development staff, but because we've traditionally kind of marshaled the process, we'll go ahead and direct those inquiries to the proper folks in other departments, whether it's public safety, DOT, or the water system.
And I think it should be noted for the viewers that when they get the packet, what it's going to have on it is basically the section of code that's going to change. But if they want to see the entire county code, then they have to go to the county clerk's webpage, and then they can see the entire county code to see where the change would fit in.
Yes, because oftentimes, for the sake of brevity, we'll make sure to just show the change or the portion of the code that is being contemplated for change. Sometimes it's very helpful for folks to refer to the county clerk's website, to go to what's called the MuniCode site, so they can see the entire chapter.
Right, to get it in context.
To get it in context.
Okay, well, thanks, Rob, for coming by. After the break, Dana Johnson will be joining us, and he will be talking about the comprehensive land use changes, which happens at the same time, and also the Dobbins land use study, which is going on now. We'll be right back.
Welcome home, man.
Today is Saturday. Today is Saturday. Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, throw a ball Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Monday, swap snacks Sunday. All the healthy children eat well and move a lot. And move a lot. And move a lot. Eat well and move a lot.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day.
Skip a rope Saturday, freeze tag Friday, tap dance Thursday.
Whole grains Wednesday, try a veggie Tuesday. Let's move Monday, split the sweet Sunday.
Eat well and move a lot. Today is Saturday. Today is Saturday. All the healthy children, all the healthy children.
Get ideas. Get involved. Get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Welcome back. Our next guest is Dana Johnson, who is the Deputy Director for the Community Development Agency and has worked for the county for over a decade. He earned his master's degree in city planning at Georgia Tech in 2000. Now, Dana is a little bit unique. He wears many hats, focuses on large-scale and neighborhood comprehensive planning strategies, urban design, economic development, and redevelopment. So there's quite a few different things that you do. He's also worked very closely in creating the Powers Ferry Master Plan, the Johnson Ferry Urban Design Plan, and the Vinings Vision. So, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it.
So, Dana, let's start off. Why don't you walk folks through, they just heard from Rob about the code amendment process, and something else we do in the beginning of the year is the comprehensive land use changes. We have the annual updates, we have the 5-year, the 10-year. So let's walk folks through what we do.
Sure. The comprehensive plan, first of all, is the growth policy document for the county. It's kind of how you as the Board of Commissioners have guidance when you make decisions on zonings or investing in different type of infrastructure on how it's going to fit the overall growth of the county, where jobs are going to go, where people are going to go, what services are needed. That's kind of the idea of what the comprehensive plan is. We have 3 different types of changes that we do for the comprehensive plan. We have our 10-year updates, which are big updates, which has a lot of public involvement. It's usually a year-plus process to undertake that, and we'll be considering that in 2015 through 2017 as the next time that we'll be pursuing that particular large-scale update. Then we have a 5-year update, which is more of a tweak to our work program that kind of makes small alterations to what the community can expect the county to do as far as it relates to policy actions over the next 5 years. The third thing is more of the getting down to the future land use aspects of that, which is our annual updates. And there we take the county's future growth map, how we're going to grow in the future, and we make minor tweaks to it. And those tweaks come from the community gives suggestions, property owners, the commissioners, and of course the planning commissioners all kind of make recommendations, and then staff kind of compiles those with some staff recommendations and brings those forward for the commissioners to consider in January of every year.
Well, now, and one of the things, folks are used to what happens every January, and the words kind of get all jumbled together when we say comprehensive land use plan. And so folks think that the comprehensive plan is just a land use map that we review every January, and kind of look at what happened in the last year's zonings and future land use. But the reality is the comprehensive plan is more than that.
That's correct. It is kind of an overall growth policy, but one of the major annual actions the board takes are those tweaks to the future development map to make sure that make sure it's current and it's meeting the current realities of what's happening in the community.
Because it also addresses transportation, and you have the comprehensive transportation plan, which is part of the comprehensive plan. So there's a lot more to it than just land use. But I think the thing that probably most folks are interested in is the future land use map.
Absolutely.
And there's actually kind of like 3 different changes that we look at with that.
That's correct. We have 3 agendas that we bring forward in January every year. There's the zoning decisions, the commissioner proposals, and the staff proposals.
So let's talk about each one. The zoning decisions basically kind of looks at what the commission did over the last year.
That's correct. Every time the Board of Commissioners makes a zoning decision that may be contrary to the comprehensive plan, we flag that, and then every January we bring it back to the board, and we say, you've made a decision on this zoning. It did not meet the comprehensive plan. Do you want to alter the comprehensive plan based upon that decision, or do you want to just leave it the way it is?
Right, and sometimes that's actually what happens is that the commissioners say, hey, yes, I know that this is a little bit more dense than this particular land use designation, but I would, as a board, we want to keep it in that land use designation.
Sometimes there are unique circumstances where it's appropriate for it to kind of remain where it's at. Absolutely.
So now the second one is commissioner proposals.
That's correct. That's where staff kind of keeps a tally of all of the property owner requests and planning commission requests and commissioner requests, and then it back to the commissioner every year for that commissioner to sponsor amendments in their district.
So very similar to what folks just heard from Rob about changes to the county code, where the commissioners can put in requests, or the citizens can, through their commissioner, put in requests. With the commissioner proposals on the land use map, it kind of works the same way, but what's happening is it may be that the community wants either a text amendment or a change to a particular land use designation to kind of move that part of the county in a certain direction.
Absolutely.
And then the last ones are staff proposals.
And usually the staff proposals are small technical tweaks that we make to make sure that we're meeting state policies, state guidelines, or add supplemental plans that may have been approved by the board over the course of the year.
Now, one of the components that's in there is we have enterprise zones, we have redevelopment zones. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that kind of comes up every year is adding and subtracting properties from those different areas. So let's tell folks how that happens.
Sure, we have an enterprise zone program where every time we create a new enterprise zone program, we make sure the comprehensive plan reflects that, to make sure there's collaboration in how we're growing and make sure that our redevelopment priorities are highlighted. We also have what's called the redevelopment inventory. And the redevelopment inventory is where we identify properties that are prime for redevelopment, and we highlight that through the comprehensive plan. It does make those available for our commercial and industrial property rehabilitation program, which provides 5-year tax abatement on new investment in redevelopment sites.
Right, and so let's talk about that a little bit, because kind of folks think that you give away something, but the reality is what's happening is we give incentives to property owners to come in and redevelop property, and we allow them to kind of over a 5-year period start assuming the new tax liability for the improved property.
That's correct, because especially with redevelopment sites, a lot of times is the tax implications of redevelopment become an inhibiting factor for people investing in their property. So what we're trying to do is trying to get rid of kind of a challenge that people might have as it relates to reinvesting in their property.
Right, because redevelopment is always, almost in always case, more expensive than developing undeveloped land.
Absolutely, Commissioner.
And part of the reason we have the redevelopment inventory and some of these incentives is to try to help get some of the old tired properties redeveloped or changed to kind of fit the changing community.
Absolutely, and a lot of times they're making substantial aesthetic improvements that make the building more fit the neighborhood feel of that particular area.
And I think it's important to note too that if a piece of property is on the redevelopment inventory, it doesn't just necessarily mean that it's blighted or in bad shape. It's just kind of, we put it on redevelopment inventory to kind of help an area along.
Encourage it.
And kind of, encouraging it. Okay, now another thing that folks have heard a little bit about, they've seen the signs on the side of the road, is the Dobbins land use study. And of course, their immediate concern is that Dobbins is closing, which is not true. So let's kind of walk folks through a little bit of as to exactly what that process is about.
The Dobbins Joint Land Use Study is an effort that Dobbins Air Reserve Base, Cobb County, the City of Marietta, and the City of Smyrna are jointly doing together. And what we're trying to do is we're looking at compatibility on land use in and around the base. So we're trying to make sure that the decisions that are made by Cobb County, the City of Marietta, and the City of Smyrna aren't negatively impacting the base, and that the base is aware of how the community is growing outside of the base, so they can alter their missions to make sure that we're all kind of working as one team to make sure Dobbins is able to be a great player in Cobb County, continue to be an important part of our community.
Well, and part of that, I mean, people, think about airports and noise, and so that's just part of it. But also there's the safety aspects because, the rules constantly change as to having clear space at the ends of the runway, and we want to kind of not have airplanes flying over people's houses, and so that's part of what we're looking at.
Absolutely. There are a couple different areas as the approach and departure areas of Dobbins that we call the clear zone, and others called potential zone, accident potential zones. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we have the right height limitations, kind of buffering for noise and other items like that to make sure that our military personnel and our community at large are both safe as it relates to the operations of Dobbins.
Okay. So now, folks, just like in the previous segment, folks can reach out to you over in the community development if they have questions or concerns. And once again, we have public hearings for the land use changes.
And the public hearing dates for the land use changes are going to be January 6th at 7 p.m., and that's held by the Cobb County Planning Commission. And then the Board of Commissioners will make final decision on January 20th at 9 a.m.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dana. Thanks for joining us. And
Thanks, Commissioner.
After this next break, we'll be back to say goodbye and give you a preview for next month's show.
It's time to join forces. Get energized. And fuel up right. It's coming. Because starting today, every kid in America has a mission. Bring out the action hero in you. Be part of the greatest action movie ever. The first movie that puts you in the action. Show us how you train and eat like an action hero. Join in at actionheroalliance.com.
What if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
I'm home, and I love it. I'm home where I belong. I'm home, and I love it. I'm home where I belong.
It's always nice to come home. But these days, many Americans are at risk of foreclosure and losing their homes. Making Home Affordable is a free program from the U.S. government that has already helped over 1 million struggling homeowners like these. And we want to help you.
I'm home, and I love it. I'm home.
Find out now what your options are. Go to makinghomeaffordable.gov or call 1-888-995-HOPE. The sooner you act, the better chance we can help you.
I'm home, where I belong.
My sadness and depression grew out of giving myself to my career before I would give myself to myself.
I didn't want to tell my parents. I really didn't want to tell anybody, and I didn't. I shut down.
Giving voice to what you're feeling is part of the healing.
The healing is in me and can also be extended to others.
If you're strong enough to just open your mouth, that's all it takes.
Hi, I'm Terry Williams. Can I tell you that it is way past time for us to come face to face with the issue of mental illness in the Black community? Time for us to stop hiding it behind closed doors. Share ourselves. Healing starts with us.
But it would be safe to keep your distance until the secret that makes you smile. Reliable sources say that chicken soup has found their way out of this year.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.